Most of the strategic zones are captured. Enemy forces have captured a zone. Attention to the map!
I've been playing an awful lot of War Thunder with the XM-1 recently, and I thought I should do something with all of the gameplay I've recorded. Fucking hell, I feel so awkward doing this. I don't know how the other YouTubers manage to record filming gameplay and talking over it. It feels so forced, it's awkward. Either way, I've been playing an awful amount of the XM-1 since I bought it, and really enjoying it, but I know it has a reputation of being a horribly bad tank and ruining top tier. I agree and disagree. It's a fucking great tank, and I love playing it, but if you use it in a role that isn't the role it's meant for, it doesn't perform well at all. You've got a little bit of turret armor, but no hull armor. There's not much survivability in the tank, though it does have blowout panels. No smoke launchers really hurts. I've found that they're a core strategy, especially with any of my light or medium tanks. Having smoke launchers, getting into a cap and popping smoke is important. Getting into a cap without smoke launchers puts you at a disadvantage immediately, because there's no easy way to fall back without being shot once you're in a cap. But in this game, I was only half concentrating at the start. I was trying to do two things at once. That's why you can see me crashing into things and driving badly. But I've gone straight for the cap, tried to rush it. The enemy got there before me, and just so that no one on their team is able to get the easy spawn points, they don't start the ticket bleed, I've just rushed in there in an awkward position, right as soon as I could, just to stop them capping. I'm relying on the bushes in front of me, hoping that no one sees me, and obviously no one can engage me from the left because of the massive rock. Unfortunately, it works both ways, and I can't see anything in front of me. So there's an enemy out there somewhere capping the point, but I can't engage him, and hopefully he can't engage me. And considering that it looked like we were going to cap the B point, the enemy were going to cap C, and I figured I could afford to sit here and wait. But then I spotted a very easy kill, and let's face it, we all take easy kills. We're all way too tempted. It's very rare that you see someone driving along with such an easy target and letting them go past. I thought that I might be pushed up on by the player on the other side of the cap, but I don't think he saw the gun smoke, so he didn't push up, so I just went straight back into my position. I thought as I was doing this it was really stupid, because I figured if he knows where I am, there is no actual cover in front of me, he can just shoot through the bushes. But as you can see, he pushed out not knowing where I was, and I could see him in third person through the bushes. I couldn't actually make out what tank it was there, and had to take a snapshot aiming for what looked like a flat panel of armor. I didn't realise until this point that we were in a mixed game, with Russians and Americans on our side, and the enemy side. Realistically, I should have, since there was IS-6s in the spawn, and T-34s on the other side that I shot a minute ago.
Attention to the designated grid square! The artillery is on the position.
I wasn't sure if there was another enemy advancing. I thought there might be, and I figured if he's realised where I am, he's going to just come around the backside, around the river, and engage me. Luckily, the player who was up on the ridge behind C took a shot at me and missed when I was completely exposed, but I opted to go round the A point and cut the guy off. As soon as he started recapping, which you can see in the top in the centre, I realised he hasn't gone round, and I've just given myself a little bit of cover with the artillery. I can push round and do what I thought he was going to do. So I'm going to try and push around and come in behind him. Unfortunately, I hate this river and I just keep getting caught in different rocks. It's embarrassing to say the least. I'm not going to say anything about this.
Enemy
I'm sorry.
forces have captured a zone.
Once we eventually got around that, we're trying to flank up the back of the A point. Hopefully no one's... I was scanning there to check if any enemies were coming along the river. Fucking... The worst bit about these rocks is that they're sunk halfway underwater, so you can't actually see where the large ones and small ones are, because the small ones don't do anything. You can drive straight over them with no effect, as you can see there. But the larger ones, you can't tell that they're larger ones because the water gets deeper around them. Anyway, so no one's coming up behind us on the hill, and we're pushing back into the cap to see what was capping it. There's an friendly IS-7 moving up to our right, and we're straight into the cap, no one's here anymore. So we're just going to take up a position where we have some cover, and we spotted the guy who capped it previously. Unfortunately, while I can see him and get a good shot in my binoculars, I can't actually get a shot in my scope. I thought he was going to turn right and I'd get a shot on here, but something spooked him, and just before turning and coming into my line of fire, he turned around, and he's coming back into the cap. I dropped artillery just in case, before I knew what he was doing, but as you can see now, he's turning around, coming back into the capture point. I decided I have the mobility, he doesn't know where I am yet, I can push up, either ambush him, or get up next to him, behind him, and at this point he doesn't see me. As a general rule of thumb, I will almost always, in a situation where I know the enemy cannot escape or run away, go for the gunner or cannon breach or barrel first, just keeping me safe. If, even in the event that they can run away, it's better to knock out their gun, because either a teammate can use that to their advantage and engage them, or they're simply out of the fight for 40 seconds, normally, with the cannon breach destroyed. Anyway, so we've recapped A, taken out the guy who capped it. We're going to push up towards C because the enemy have taken it now. Because I knew there was the trap rock on the left, I kept to the right, and clearly kept too far to the right. Just as I was coming up this hill here, I spotted an AA on the minimap that got called out, and being a very lightly armoured tank, I couldn't risk driving up in front of him. Thankfully, before he spotted me, a teammate saw him and took him out. And just after we turned to engage him, we've noticed the A point is being captured again. So, back we go, straight up the backside. We're going to flank around again and hit them in the back. The way I like to play the XM-1 is never, or if possible, avoid engaging from the front. Always try and flank around, and generally try not to get seen. If you do get seen, if you can get into a position where you can hide your hull, you have a good chance. If you can wiggle your turret, you have a good chance of bouncing shots as well. This tank, while a lot of people make it out as a glass cannon, which it generally is, especially if your hull is visible, it can deflect some shots on the turret if you wiggle it and keep moving. And you're actually going to see here that he deflects my shot right into... I thought I was shooting him in the breach, and he's deflected it, and I managed to drive stupidly into a rock. Luckily for me, in that first shot I took into his engine, I knocked out his loader, so he has a long enough reload that I can get out of his way. And we're back in a bit of a stalemate. He's watching, he doesn't know which side I'm going to peek out of, he clearly can't see me. I don't know at this point, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. As soon as I saw his gun go a bit more to the left, I decided I'm going to reverse and take the shot, and he actually sees me peek, but I get in there first. When I took the original shot into his engine, I normally find that APDS shots into the engine will go through and kill most of the crew on the other side, but because I engaged from an angle and didn't aim into his engine in such a way that my round would go center mass, it went in one side, out the other, only killing the loader and engine, instead of getting the rest of his crew. If I was more lined up to the rear of his tank, rather than being at an angle, I could have killed all of his crew with that one shot through the engine. Have to take it as a lesson learned for the future. Anyway, we popped a smoke just to make sure no one on the sniper hill can aim at us, and we're going to get our crew member back while we're here. Generally, when you get into the late game like this, a lot of players forget about the common lanes and positions that other players like to take up. I figured since it's this late in the game, people aren't going to notice if I take up a position on the horseshoe, unlike at the beginning when almost everyone rushes over to hit. I was looking at this point to cover the T-54 moving up and see if there's any enemies coming down from their spawner or from the sniper hill. Didn't look like there was anyone, so I moved on, and just as I moved on, I spotted an enemy tank trying to climb up the side of the river.
Another zone captured, we have the advantage.
I figured I can be patient and wait for a better shot. Just as I tried to move up, he peeks again, and I rushed this shot thinking I had a good chance as he fell back down and bounced. Now he knows I'm here, and he's gone and repositioned. I've decided I have the advantage with my stabilizer. Even though I have the lack of armor, that stabilizer, if he keeps moving, will give me a massive advantage on him. As I come down here, I realised he was stopped and looking for me. So I took it cautiously, and as you can see, his ass is hanging out. Since he's in such an awkward position, there's no reason for us to push around and let him take a shot at us. I can just sit here and keep firing into his engine and set him on fire 3 times. Unfortunately, after the first shot set him on fire, the second didn't. And I thought this was a good chance to use that HESH I'd had stored away since the beginning of the match. Normally the HESH doesn't come in very useful, but I figured the explosive mass behind it would help it fragment into the rest of the tank or set him on fire again. In this instance, it doesn't set him on fire, but the fragmentation is able to go really far forward and catch a few of his crew. On the next shot, I get in a bit cheekier and go for a more central part of the engine, and the fragmentation goes through and kills the rest of his crew. That brings us to an ace kill, and I panicked like a madman here, not knowing what I was looking at, and as soon as I realised it was M22, he couldn't hurt me, we finished him off. This brings us to 6 kills, and I believe 3 zone caps, and there's only 2 enemies remaining at this point. We've got all 3 caps, so we can just take up positions and wait for the tickets to bleed. The rest of this gameplay is literally just sitting in the corner and waiting while nothing happens. So I'm going to skip it to the end. Finally, after the mission finish, as you can see, we got 3 zone caps, 6 kills, and 2,600 and something score. This was a great game, and because of the premium account and premium vehicle, there's a whopping 13,000 vehicle research points and 100,000 lions. Quite an impressive haul if I do say so myself. I think I'm going to have to keep playing a lot more of this tank.